It's a warm welcome to the Shell Advance Asia Talent Cup for 2016. We're all set for the third season of the series, which started in 2014. Two very talented champions have been sought so far. Kaito Toba in 2014, and then Ayumu Sasaki, who's gone on to do great things since then in 2015. And so, having gone through a rigorous selection process, several riders went to the Chang International Circuit, the adopted home of the Asia Talent Cup, in order to do some testing with Alberto Puig, the renowned talent scout. First it was trying the bikes for size, quite literally, and then time to go out onto the track itself. No pressure then, as this is the home of the Malaysian Motorcycle Grand Prix, where Rossi and Marquez had their infamous collision last October. It's a chance to get up to speed with the Honda NSF250R Moto3 bike. And with so many rookies in the field this year, there's a lot of learning to be done. And the coaching not just coming from Alberto Puig, the former Grand Prix racer, but also from Hiroshi Ayama, world champion back in 2009. And this test at Sepang for just over 20 riders also featured some practice starts as the riders lined up 2 by 2 on the Sepang starting grid and focused at those lights. And now the serious business begins. Welcome to round one of the Shell Advance Asia Talent Cup for 2016. Welcome to Thailand and welcome to the Chang International Circuit for the second time in the Asia Talent Cup, as it also opened the season last year. So much to look forward to this season, and there's added motivation, of course, for all of the riders in the field, having seen what Ayumu Sasaki has done. He's raced in the Red Bull Rookies. He's also raced in the CEV Moto3 Junior World Championship. And just to prove how talented he is, the Asia Talent Cup champion of last year finished on the podium in the highly competitive CEV, I should say, in Valencia at the end of last year. But as we go down the grid here in Thailand, he's not here, of course, because most of the riders have moved on. We have only 7 riders continuing in the field from last year, 23 in total here, 3 wildcards. So that means there are 16 rookies on this grid, and this man has taken the pole position. Great stuff from Andy Istihar. The Indonesian really came good, didn't he, in Qatar, if you remember last year. On the Moto Grand Prix weekend, he won that race. Finished 9th overall, having only taken part in 1 race back in 2014. And now Istihar, with 2 podiums underneath him from Qatar and also Sepang last year, is looking to make an impression and really challenge for the title in 2016. Greg Haynes with you here at the Chang International Circuit. Alongside us here in the commentary box is Steve English. And certainly this man, Steve, looks very, very strong. Somkiat Chantra, he won the opening race of the season here last year, then had a crash actually here at Sepang later on in the year while he was training here at Chang, I should say. And just before the Sepang event, he broke his leg, unfortunately, and missed the rest of the season. But Chantra's been strong in the test. He topped the 2 days there in February back in Malaysia. He's been strong here all weekend. He's missed out on the pole, but you have to say the likes of Chantra looking very strong indeed.
Yeah, Chantra's looked really strong the whole way through the weekend so far, Greg, and only 6,000 off the pace as well in qualifying. So this morning's half-hour session, we really saw him and Istihar really separate themselves from the rest of the field to a great extent. They were comfortable from the outset and really looked like they were the guys that had the pace to set times that were quick on their own. In the qualifying session and in practice yesterday, we saw a lot of guys working around in packs. Obviously at a track like Chang, you've got 2 long straights. You want to try and use as much of the slipstream as possible. We saw a lot of times where you had 6, 7, 8 guys all in the same pack together. And in the race, that should actually help us have a close race now today, because it'll mean that if you do get into the slipstream, you'll still be able to keep with that group, even if you lose a bit of ground through some of the corners. Obviously with the Moto3 bike here, a lot of the corners are almost flat out, and you're just really pushing as hard as you can just to maintain your corner speed through here. So it should be quite an interesting race just to see exactly what these guys can do.
Certainly should, and it's the Honda NSF250 RW, which they're racing in the World Championship at the moment. It debuted, if you remember, back in 2014 and took the title in its maiden campaign with Alex Marquez. The bike they're racing here, though, all identical machines. It's the previous World Championship bike, the NSF250R, 84 kilograms. Then it's a single-cylinder, four-stroke, 249.3cc to be precise. And only 7 of the riders, as we've said, on this grid are continuing from last year. I was having a chat the other day with Alberto Puig. We bumped into each other in the airport coming into Bangkok, which is 400 kilometres away from this Chang International Circuit in the city of Buriram. And he was saying to me, Steve, there's a bit of an unwritten rule put in place by Alberto Puig that no rider should do more than 2 seasons in this category. The likes of Takuma Kanunime, for example, who was a really quick rider in 2014. He finished 3rd overall. 2015, he finished 2nd overall. But Alberto reckons really by the time they get to the end of that 2nd season, they certainly should be contending for the title. And if they haven't by then, perhaps it's time to say goodbye and we'll move on to some other riders.
Yeah, and you see that time and again with Puig over the years. Obviously, he's pretty much the world's best talent spotter now at the moment. And you see with the guys he's taken through the Spanish classes over the last 15 years, he tends to give them the opportunity to show what they can do. If they don't do it within that first couple of years, he does look at it that maybe they just don't have the talent or the dedication to really push on to the highest level, and that's why he'll look at it. You've got 2 years to prove yourself here. If you haven't done it at that stage, to move on to CEV like we saw with Suzuki, that's where you need to really be able just to prove what you can do early in your championship here.
Was Kazuki Masaki there, and he was one of the real favourites last year. Really came good when he made his debut in the Asia Talent Cup last year, and I remind you, this now is the 3rd season for this particular championship. But Masaki lining up 7th on the grid here and finished 3rd overall in the championship last year. Just to remind you of the championships we've had so far, we had Kaito Toba winning from Yuta Date and Takuma Kanunime in 2014. Kanunime went one better last year, finished ahead of Masaki, but behind Ayumu Sasaki, which was a bit confusing, as Sasaki and Masaki often battled in the races, just to confuse us all as the season went by. But what is the season for the Asia Talent Cup? Well, they've had the test on the 9th and 10th of February at Sepang. We're now kicking off here alongside the World Superbike Championship in Thailand. Just next weekend they'll be going over to Qatar alongside MotoGP, so 100 points up for grabs with 2 races on each weekend across the space now of the next few days. Then in May there will be the World SBK Malaysian meeting. They'll be racing there as well, and then the only meeting not alongside either World Superbike or MotoGP is the Zhuhai China meeting, which is in September. That's running alongside the Pan Delta. Then it all comes down to a dramatic climax alongside MotoGP in Japan and Malaysia in the triple header there towards the end of October. So there's a lot to look forward to for all of these riders. A real mixture on the grid. We have 8 different countries represented. Remember last year Australia and New Zealand were able to then submit entries to the Asia Talent Cup. Well, we have on this particular grid 6 Japanese riders, and they've really been the stars so far. 5 from Indonesia, 3 from Turkey, 2 from Thailand. They'll be looking to go well here. And don't forget 2 Thai riders won here last year. 2 from Malaysia, 1 from Australia, 1 from China. And we also have the first ever Indian rider on the grid for the Asia Talent Cup, and that is Ahmed Yanseen, number 22. Has had a bit of trouble so far this weekend. He had 2 crashes on Friday, one at turn 1, one at turn 12, but he'll be lining up towards the back of the grid and looking to make a good impression as they pull away on the first warm-up lap. In terms of the championship points, exactly the same as the World Superbike, which we're racing alongside here this weekend, and the MotoGP World Championship, i.e. 25 for the win, 20 for second, 16 for third, 13 for fourth, and then they make their way all the way down to 15th position, which would be 1 point. They move away then on this warm-up lap. It's a rather flat Chang International Circuit, apart from this drop here, which is coming out of turn 3, down this rather long back straight towards the left-hander of turn 4, which is the fastest corner on the circuit. And with such light bikes, Steve, they're carrying tremendous corner speed. We were chatting with Fahmi Karadin yesterday, who's racing here this weekend in World Supersport. He's gone this year from a very light 84-odd kilogram Moto3 machine to a 171 kilo World Supersport machine this year, and he said that's got a lot more power. But these things, these Moto3 bikes, carry tremendous corner speed. And incidentally, watch out for the Karadin name, because his youngest of 3 brothers, Idaham, is lining up on this grid. But in terms of corner speed, these things, they're not slow.
Yeah, Moto3 bikes, they're all about maintaining as much momentum as you can. Obviously, with a 250cc engine, you don't have the same kind of power you get on a 600 or a superbike, and that's where you see an awful lot of times the riders just have to keep their rolling speed as high as possible through the corners. And talking to a couple of the riders over the weekend, what they've said is that turn 4 is probably the most impressive corner. When you talk to some of the guys in World Supersport, they say that on these Moto3 bikes, coming through there would be pretty much flat out, and a really exciting corner. Everyone's coming up now to line up on the grid now as well, Greg. So with
23 of them. Is that what you're going to say?
That was it.
I know. By the way, can we just apologise in advance for some of the names in the field? Not for the names, but for our pronunciation of the names. We are trying our best. We've been speaking to the riders, but there are some rather confusing names down this grid. But they now pull into position. 7 of them continuing then from last year. 16 rookies in total and 3 wildcards. The most spectacular name of all, incidentally, is number 21, the Thai wildcard, Warapod Niamsakonsikul, which I've been practising quite frequently, as have you, Steve, in the media centre here. We've had a bit of a laugh over it because it doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, I'm afraid, for myself from England and Steve from Ireland. But we're getting there bit by bit. And they now line up on the grid. 16 laps then in front of them. 72 kilometres, 45 miles of racing. Here we go. It's just past 12 local time and already a problem. Number 11, that is Iqbal. Izam Iqbal, the Malaysian, waving his hands there. Are we going to get a problem here in terms of delaying the start? He was lining up 20th on the grid on row 7, so this is towards the back of the grid. There he is in the middle of the picture. Red flag being held up, yellow flag, as you can see there on the right-hand side, to indicate to the starter that we do have an issue. Are they going to delay the start? Are they going to send them on another warm-up lap? I'm not sure they are. We're ready for a race start then for the Shed Advance Asia Talent Cup in 2016. Red lights will be on, or will they? Yes, they will. We're finally away now. Iqbal stuck at the back of the grid. That's a nightmare for him, but the rest of them pull away down to turn 1 with Andy Istihar, number 23, getting the great start from pole position. That's exactly what he wanted. Now it's a very, very difficult first corner here at the Chang International Circuit. What disappointment, though, further back for Iqbal. It looks as though his race is over before it's even started, Steve.
We saw Yamanaka get up into second now as well, Greg. So let's see them down in towards turn 3. Obviously there's been new track surface put down here as well this weekend, so this is where a lot of riders have complained about a little bit of a lack of grip with the dust. And
the leader goes straight on. That's exactly what you were saying, Steve. Oh dear, off goes Yamanaka and rejoins the race. He was in the lead, as you said. A superb start for Yamanaka, who came up from 3rd on the grid but sails straight on down at turn 3 and drops all the way back into the middle of the pack. So number 23 resumes the lead. That's Istihar, who started on pole position. He's got number 16 by the looks of things right up behind him. No, there's no 16 in the field. Get there in the end, Greg. It's 18 right behind him. It's Somkhat Chantra, and he's the man to watch because Chantra's been quick all through the Sepang test. He's been quick here this weekend, and he won this first race last year. So watch out for Chantra. There's the order. Istihar with the advantage. Then it's Chantra. Kuni, who's a rookie this year, is 3rd. From Masaki, Ogura and Salim. So 5 of the current top 6 all raced in the Asia Talent Cup last year, as did Yamanaka in 7th position. 8th is Kawasaki. Not a Kawasaki, it's a Honda, but it's ridden by a rider called Shogo Kawasaki from Japan. He's a rookie this year and he's made a great start. He's running 8th.
We can see Iqbal's now got himself going again off the line, but obviously he's half a lap behind, so already out of contention for it. But if you look at the battle up at the front, you're now seeing Chantra trying just half wheel down the inside into the final corner, just letting the leader know that he's there.
Now there's a lot of slow corners here at Chang. You've got turn 3 at the end of the back straight, turn 12, which is the last corner, and the one they're coming up to now, turn 1, all following straight sections, so it's easy to get in the toe and try and dive up the inside. This is a very, very tricky first corner, though, here in Thailand. It's been compared by many of the riders to the Harbok, the first corner at Assen, not just because the curbs are painted blue and white as they are in Holland, but it's very, very similar in terms of radius. I have to say, a lovely clean start, very good stuff for everybody. We've seen a few riders running out wide, but they're all still running down to Iqbal, as you say, Steve, who's 21st at the moment. Now then, this is where some new asphalt's been put down. Only about 3 weeks ago, the World Superbike riders had all sorts of problems with it earlier on in the weekend. It was like riding over glass early on. But at the moment, the Asia Talent Cup riders very mature indeed, and all of that coaching from Hiroshi Ayama and Alberto Puig is certainly paying off. Great to see on the timing screen here that none of them jumped the start either, and don't forget that's a real challenge for the riders in the Asia Talent Cup. Into the left-hander then in the middle of the section. These are the quick left-handers of turns 4 and turn 5. Then you flick it back to the right-hand side as you come into turn 7. So here we are, 4, 5, 6. This is 7. And look in the middle of the picture. Look at that sheen across the road. And that's a completely new strip of asphalt they've put down. And that, Steve, was causing, as we say, real issues earlier on in the weekend. But the track now rubbering in. Some of that dust has been cleared away. And it's much, much better now than it was this time on Friday.
Yeah, through 7 and 8, Greg, because there's one line through there, you're able to actually get the rubber laid down. The main issue is up at turn 3, just because riders are now taking that much wider line on the way in and out of the corner, so it just means that we're not getting as much rubber down through there. But we're seeing into the final corner now as well. A lot of guys have a lot more confidence on their braking, just because they're able to use the rubber that's down.
Oh, and that's Agura slipping through up into 4th position. Agura, the number 9er, he was one of the riders in the field last year, and it's Masaki who's in front of him. Look at those lap times down the left-hand side of the screen. The top 3 are beginning to break away from the rest of the field, but look how tight this is getting as Yamanaka, number 12, is right up now, attacking Agura for 4th.
Yeah, and on the previous lap, Greg, we saw Agura actually signal to the other guys in that group that he wants them to stay behind them. He looks like he's got the confidence to be able to keep with that lead group and make sure that the lead trio don't get away.
And we've seen that a few times, haven't we, in the Asia Talent Cup? It's, well, like the Moto3 World Championship, actually. It is easy for a rider to break away from the field. Just think back to the likes of Louis Salom in 2013, how he used to sit in the pack and then put the hammer down and disappear off up the road. Well, we've seen that here as well before in the Asia Talent Cup, but generally we've had some absolutely remarkable races. Many of them, if not almost all of them, have come down to the last corner, whether it's Motegi or Qatar, or here at Chang. And indeed, if you think back to Qatar last year, we had 4 abreast, if you remember, across the finish line at the start of the MotoGP season for the Asia Talent Cup last year. So they're just calming down at the moment. We're on lap 3 of 16, still 13 to go when they next come through. What's happening further back? Well, Zapata is 10th at the moment. Then Liam Seconsical is in 11th position. Tom Edwards from Australia running strongly in 12th. And Tom Edwards was one of the riders coached by Colin Stoner, father of double MotoGP world champion Casey. And he's going well at the moment, Steve, in 12th. Yeah,
Edwards as well. He raced over in the US on flat track, and he's got quite a lot of experience for his age as well. So it's just interesting to see how he's going to progress through the year. Obviously, last year he did a couple of wild cards, but this will be the first full season in the Asian Talent Cup for him.
Good bit of scrap going on here. This is those guys, actually. Liam Seconsical, 21, is 10th. So this is the fight here for 10th, 11th and 12th. It's Liam Seconsical at the front of the group. Then it's Tom Edwards. And number 10 just behind them there is Zapata. That is Dwiki Zapata, the Indonesian rider. But look how far back they are now to the rest of the field. And as you quite rightly pointed out, that group behind the leaders is now working together and beginning to close in. And they were the fastest last time round. Yamanaka in 5th position. There he is, number 12. There he is, coming through the shots. He was the fastest rider of the race last time round, and you can see it visually as they come down the back straight. He's actually slipstreams his way, or does he, past Agura, side by side. Agura number 9 on the right, Yamanaka trying to come through. There was almost contact there. They've got to be mighty careful down into turn 3, but they are closing in on Istihar and Chantra, who currently lead this race.
Yeah, you could see Yamanaki stood the bike up a little bit because he didn't want to put himself onto that new asphalt, and that's what brings him then closer into the rear of the bike in front. But he does well to be able to hold himself upright.
Yeah, there's Yamanaka just fainting to the inside of turn 4, fastest corner on the circuit. Plenty of runoff, but it's very, very dusty. And look now then at 9, Agura. Wow, that could have been an absolute disaster for Agura. He was looking up the inside and ended up losing one by the looks of things. Somkiat Chantra just holding him off. This is getting very tight now. Istihar with the advantage, having won in Qatar last year. Chantra is second, having won here last year. And then Agura is running around in a very strong and very, very aggressive at the moment, it has to be said, 3rd position. But Agura, he knows what he's doing. It's his 2nd season now in the Asia Talent Cup. Finished 7th overall last year. Won one of the races at Zhuhai in China. And 3 podiums in total for Agura. But you actually just saw him running wide there, coming out of turn 9. It's delayed him through 10. And this right-hander at 11. Down into the right-hander at 12. Are we going to see a pass here from Chantra up the inside of Istihar? This is certainly a corner where you can attack on the last lap of the race. But how many times already in the very short history of this Buriram track have riders dived up the inside of turn 12, run out wide, and ended up losing a loaded position? So we'll see how that develops over the next few minutes. And look at number 12, that's Yamanaka. Agura almost having to sit up there as we come through to start lap 5. But it's now Jerry Salim, the number 4 rider, who's in 5th position, fastest on the track. Good example again then here of the slipstream down the back straight. But of course, with such a long race, as somebody runs very wide in the background there, coming out of turn 1, with such a long race, Steve, they're able to size each other up. Where am I strongest? Where am I weakest? What might I do on the last lap? Arguably, you don't want to actually be in the lead of the race starting that last lap.
Yeah, but you have to remember, Greg, these are Moto3 bikes. Guys that are going to be used to racing a Moto3 bike, you don't tend to see an awful lot of thought process going into the races for them as well.
And bear in mind as well, 16 rookies in the field as we just take a look back at the start. But as you say, it was a great start. There is the rider number 11, that's Ikmal, being delayed, and as you said, Steve, he did get going. Izdihar at this point then made a great start, number 23 from pole position. Yamanaka was strong, but as we know, there were then some antics down at the hairpin just a few seconds after this. Here we go, they're down into the hairpin. At this point then, Yamanaka, after that great start, is in the lead, but look at him on the right-hand side. He's sailing out wide. He's disappeared out of the picture, but any second now you'll see him, and they're all running past him, and look, there's more side-by-side as we go back live. 18 there is Chantra. Izdihar still with the advantage. That was Chantra and Agura getting a little bit too close for comfort, and look at Agura running wide. He's all over the place. Whoa!
And a big moment for Agura there, and you can see he's just starting to push on, and this is where, with the bit of dust on the track, it's very easy just to have an instant. You have a bobble like that and you fall back to the end of the lead group as well. So Agura with a lot of work to do now to work his way back up to the front.
Yeah, that's Agura in the twinkling of an eye there. He's dropped down from second position all the way to the back of the group. Look at him then, number 9, around the left-hander of 10. That was a very, very focusing moment indeed for Agura, the number 9 rider. But he's kept it on the road. The Japanese rider, here he is then at the back of the group. It's not a complete disaster. He can still win the race from there. He's 7th at the moment.
Yeah, and it's an easy instant to happen there at turn 10. Just it's an off-camber corner. It's quite tactical. And it's very easy just to get in the gas a little bit early, especially with these Moto3 bikes, where you're tending to, as we said earlier, just carry as much momentum, carry as much rolling speed as possible.
Remember, many of these riders, if not all of them almost, are in their early teens. We've got a lot of 12-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 13-year-olds in this field. Another massive moment there coming out of turn 3. That was Kuni this time, the Japanese newcomer. Here he is, number 5, just 13 years of age. He was born, Steve, in February 2003, which doesn't feel that long ago to me. And here he is racing at the Chang International Circuit just 13 years later. Here we go, then it's into the right-hander third. Look at that sheen, as I said earlier on, across the tarmac there. That's that new strip of asphalt that's been put down. Wobble, 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 out wide, and rejoins the action. Who's the oldest rider in the field, by the way? Well, that's Niam Sikonsikal, the 20-year-old. He is number 21. He's currently running in 11th place. The youngest rider is a 12-year-old, and that's Bahatin Safoglu. You may recognise the surname. He is currently 15th. He's on target for a point as a wild card here, and he is the second cousin of Keenan Safoglu, 4-time World Supersport champion, who is racing here this weekend.
Yeah, there's a couple of other Turks in the field as well that are all working with Keenan too. You've got the Onsu brothers, so that's the number 3 bike and the number 7 bike. Both of them were Supermoto champions in Bulgaria, and I think the number 7 rider also won it in Turkey as well on 85cc bikes.
And they've all been matured by Keenan Safoglu and developed over there in Turkey at Keenan's training camp. So great stuff. The 3 of them actually, Safoglu and the 2 Onsu twins, started together on the grid in 12th, 13th and 14th position. Safoglu was behind both of the brothers and he's now in front of them, as I say. Well, he's in front. No, he's not. What am I talking about? He's 15th. The Onsu brothers are 11th and 14th. But things are continuing to change further down the order. Look down the left-hand side of your screen. There are changes going on, and this is the leading group now with just 10 to go. This is lap 7, and again, number 9, he's very, very adventurous, isn't he? Agura, but he's cutting back through the pack now. He was 7th a moment ago. He's got ahead of all of that lot behind him there. The number 2 is Masaki. He's got ahead of Kuni as well. And he now then, he's back up into 4th position. The others are going to squabble amongst themselves. Agura's going to try and home in on Izdihar, Chantra and Yamanaka at the front of the race.
Yeah, you saw Agura just pick up a nice slipstream coming down the straight, and just able to pick off 2 guys on the way into braking. Just having that confidence, and that's what we've seen an awful lot in the Age Talent Cup in the past. Just having that bit of experience, that bit of confidence is what makes the difference.
Everybody's still running as well, which is absolutely superb news. All 21 of them at the moment, with Ikmal, who had that problem on the start line a long way further back. But he's just got to get the laps in, hasn't he, Steve? It's an extended test session now for Ikmal. He's down the back of the field, but learning all the time. And remember, many of these riders have just come up. They're just starting their racing careers. They're selected by Alberto Puig. They submit their names and their details, their profiles into AsiaTalentCup.com. Alberto Puig goes through hundreds of participants or potential participants. Then they get selected to go to the actual selection event on Honda Underbone scooters on the Sepang karting circuit. From there, the grid is then decided, then they have the Sepang test, and then straight into the action. And look what's happening now as we come through to start lap 8. Agura's charge continues. He's past Yamanaka, sets the fastest lap of the race en route, and is he up into 3rd position as they break for turn 1? Yes, he is.
Yeah, we've seen Izdihar and Chantra just lead the way the entire race, but now Agura, he's clearly the man on the move. He's trying to set fast times. He's moved through the pack. Even though he comes from the back of that group, he's able to set the fastest lap of the race. And now he's going to try and see if he can attack the two leaders. We've seen Izdihar, he's been comfortable up at the front, but he hasn't really been pressed yet. We're just coming up to half distance, so this is when riders will start just pressing buttons and seeing where they can be a little bit faster.
Yeah, and the likes of Somkiat Chantra will be very, very careful indeed, because he started so brilliantly here, did Chantra last year, won the race, crashed in the second race. Then we went to Qatar. He finished second there in the first race, third there in their second race. But then, here at Chang, just before the Sepang event in the middle of the season, he crashed, broke a leg and was out for the rest of the year. So Chantra, who's been quick in testing, quick this weekend, needs to be mighty careful. In the meantime, Agura is now into the lead of the race, so it just proves, having made a mistake a few minutes ago over at turn 10 and dropped all the way down to 7th, it's taken him just a few laps to fight back up into the lead. Great job. Yeah,
third to first there. Picks up a good drive through turn 4, and he's just able to make his move into 5. But he looks comfortable, he looks confident on the bike, and you're seeing him pick his way through that crowd now. And now it's crucial to see if he can actually keep that momentum going. But we're seeing now immediately Izdihar fights back. Agura just ran a little bit wide, got onto the curb, lost a bit of his momentum, and that opens the door for Izdihar. They're coming up now towards
Ikmal, isn't it?
Ikmal, yeah. Just to now get the start of the traffic from him.
Yeah, he's Ikmal, who we saw have the problem at the start. He's about to be lapped. Another change for the lead. Agura then. That's the first time really we've seen a pass for the lead into that Larkin. And now then Ikmal shaking his head a little bit slow there, and he was almost on the racing line as they crossed the line. The leaders are now starting lap 9 of 16. Blue flag should be out. Ikmal, number 11, is not in the battle for the lead, and he's getting mixed up with all of the leaders. Finally then, caught unawares and runs out wide. There he goes. Well, he did not see the blue flags there, unless I'm mistaken. Ikmal bounces across the grass. Thankfully, all of the leaders got through there without any major hassle, but that could have been a really dramatic moment. Well, it was a dramatic moment down into turn 1, and Ikmal lives to fight another day, as do all of these lot at the front of the race. Now then, down into 3. Agura's in the lead but runs wide, cuts across the bows of Izdihar, who's led for most of the race so far, it must be said, from pole position. 18 then, up ahead of Chantra. Is now, Chantra now is up into 3rd, ahead of Yamanaka. Then it's Salim. Masaki is number 2. He's in 6th position. And all the way down there to Kuni, number 5. This is the top 7, the magnificent 7 in the Asia Talent Cup. They're so far ahead now of the rest of the field. Kawasaki is 5.7 seconds further back. And we've got in 9th position Ardian Shah, who we haven't talked too much about yet. He's one of the Indonesian riders. He's 9th. The leading Onsu brother, that's Kan Onsu, is 10th. Sapata is 11th. Sofoglu's now fought his way up into 12th ahead of Niam Sekonsikal, who's the oldest rider in the field, at 20. Tom Edwards is 14th. And the other Onsu brother, that's Deniz Onsul, is in 15th position. Look at this, though, now. We're getting towards the closing stages of the race. There'll just be 7 laps to go next time, Steve. And you can just get the impression now that tensions are beginning to rise in this leading septet at the front.
Yeah, and you're seeing Izdihar, he's able just to keep a much tighter line, and he's able to put his bike exactly where he wants it, whereas Agura seems to be getting a little bit more loose now, just in comparison to the other guys in the group, but he's still able to hold on to the lead, so there may not be too much to worry about if you're Agura, but in the last couple of laps, this is where you need to be able just to keep everything as tight as possible whenever you're up at the front.
Learning the pit boards is another skill, of course, vital in motorcycle racing. There's certainly no radios in terms of pit to bike or bike to pit, so the riders must communicate there with the pit board. And you saw again, Agura looked over his left shoulder as it came down the start-finish straight, side by side now with Izdihar as we come down into turn 3. Agura on the right, number 9. Izdihar is number 23. Right up behind them is Somkiat Chantra, racing here at home in Thailand. Agura runs very wide indeed. Very different line from Andy Izdihar, not for the first time, slides back underneath. He's got that turn 3 down to a T, hasn't he, Izdihar? Brilliant. And remember, he knows all about slipstream because he came through in that 4-rider squabble and won that race in Qatar in the MotoGP weekend last year. So brilliant stuff then from Andy Izdihar, who's in the lead of the race, but not for long. Agura slips back in front of him, and this is going to keep happening now over the next 6.5 laps of this race. Great stuff. So we're watching the top 7. Kawasaki is still 8th from Ardia Shah. Then it's Onsu, the first Onsu in 10th position. Sapata is 11th. Sofoglu, youngest rider in the race, is running around. 12-year-old in 12th position, so his position matches his age. Then it's Niam Sekonsikal. Edwards, and the second of the Onsus, is down in 15th position. Oh, that was 18. That was Chantra, getting very close there to the back of Masaki. Now then, speak of the devil, here is Bahidin Sofoglu in 12th position, further back in the pack. Youngest rider in the race, number 14. Bit of chatter there as he tips it into the left-hander of turn 5. And don't forget, Keenan Sofoglu is here this weekend. He's racing in the World Supersport race, and there he is, in fact, having missed out on points in Australia. He crashed out there 2 weeks ago. So Sofoglu going for victory here tomorrow, and he's got his Superpole session coming up later this afternoon. At the moment, though, he looks very busy concentrating on his setup, perhaps, for the Supersport race. But great stuff at the moment, Keenan. Your second cousin is out there, and he's on target for points. He's certainly battling there towards the back of the top 15. What's happening at the front then, Steve? We're on to lap 11 of 16, 6 to go. It's Izdihar with the advantage. Agura still up there in second position. Then it's Chantra who's back in front of Masaki.
Yeah, we're just seeing the lead group, Greg, just change positions throughout now the last few laps. But we're going to get in 5-6 laps to go, and suddenly this is where we're going to need to see someone really make a step on what they have to do. Izdihar looks a lot stronger into turn 3 than everyone else. We're seeing him, he's got a bit more confidence, he's using a little bit more of the new asphalt that's down, and he just seems to be able to carry that tighter line and be able to attack the guys in front of him who still seem to be looking to carry that wide line, the safer line.
Izdihar's been one of those riders who's shown real promise coming into the Asia Talent Cup, and here he comes again. Or does he? No, not quite this time, but he did just one race at Sentul in Indonesia back in 2014 and actually did finish in the points. He finished 10th in that particular race. Full season last year, scored in all races except 3 of them, finished 9th overall and 2 podiums. As I say, it was a win in Qatar and a second at Sepang towards the end of the season.
And you look at him and he keeps using less of the track compared to everyone else. So that could just save him a little bit of his tyres. It could mean that on the last lap he's got a little bit more edge compared to the other guys.
Oh, and this is getting very, very tight indeed. This is the right-hander now of turn 9. They flick it left for 10 here at Buriram. And look how this is going to unfold, because the leader, Agura, at this particular point, very slow coming out of 9. It's affected his run all the way through 10 and 11. And now, is Izdihar going to pass up the inside into the last corner? Well, it's 18, it's Chantra who's attacking. Very, very tight down into the right-hander then of turn 12. And there's been some asphalt changes there as well. Turns 3, turn 7, turns 12 have all been modified, just as I say, 3 weeks ago. That brand new asphalt put down, it was described by somebody in the paddock as the lesser of 2 evils, because the old asphalt surface here was beginning to break up, and of course it's very hot, very humid here in Thailand. Resurfacing is required quite often. It's a new circuit as well, relatively speaking, so these things do happen. But as a result of this new asphalt, it's creating a very, very slippery surface, particularly if you run offline. Indeed, Alex Lowe's was saying to you, Steve, the World Superbike rider with Yamaha, down here at turn 3, they're basically working with, what, a 1 metre strip of asphalt, and there's a good example. Agura runs out wide again. It's very, very, very tricky down there. And again, that's at least the 3rd time now that Agura has looked over his left shoulder and just said to everybody else, stick together, don't let the leader break away. There's no point letting him disappear off up the road, which Izdihar might be capable of if the others delay each other too badly. Look at this now then.
Yeah, we just seen Masaki, he gets through to the front, goes from 3rd to 1st, and he's looked comfortable in the last few laps, just being able to pick his way through the group and sit behind Aguro and just basically understand where everyone else seems to be carrying their speed. So in the last 4.5 laps, this is where we're really going to start to see where that bit of experience comes in, and that's where Masaki could have quite an advantage.
There he is, number 2, the leading Japanese rider, lowest number in the race. We don't have a number 1 in the Asia Talent Cup because the champion's not racing. Remember, Kaito Toba won the first title back in 14, and then Ayumu Sasaki last year. And as we were saying before the race started, Sasaki's gone on to do some great things in the Rookies Cup and also in the Moto3 Junior World Championship, finished on the podium indeed there in Valencia at the end of last year.
Yeah, and that's where the riders can see the benefit of the Asia Talent Cup. We saw at the last round of the Junior World Championship that...
Contact! Sorry to cut across you, Steve, but that's Izdihar, who started on pole position. Everybody funneled down into the last corner. We were worried something like this might happen, and Izdihar is down. He will be absolutely livid. Started on pole and he's down, but can he rejoin the race? So 7 becomes 6 as we start lap 13. You've got to say that was always going to happen. I didn't think it would happen so early, but what a shame that it's Izdihar who's gone down. So it's Agura in the lead, Jerry Salim coming into action. So what happened then? Izdihar is just off to the left-hand side, number 23. Number 2 there is Masaki. Someone else diving, and he lost it all by himself. He just dived through and the front end folded.
We saw a crash like that as well this morning in World Supersport. Just you carry a little bit too much speed onto that new stretch of asphalt, and just with where the grip changes, that's where you lose the front, and that's all that happens there to Izdihar.
Oh, and Masaki did such a good job to avoid it there, as did Agura. And what's this? Is this another incident? Because this is a bike in a gravel trap there, or is that just Izdihar walking away? It may just be the marshals recovering the bike. I do think it is over at turn 12. So Izdihar out of the race, and with 3.5 to go, his name tumbles all the way down to the bottom and a potential 25 points becomes absolutely nothing for Andy Izdihar. Khairuddin goes 14th. Sapata, the number 10 rider from Indonesia, Dwiki Sapata, is now up into the points in 15th. So we regroup, just over 3 to go. Leading is Masaki. Second, we've got an almighty fight going on between Agura, Salim, Chantra. They're all in there. Oh, and this has happened just a few minutes ago while we were watching the replays of Izdihar going down. This happened over at turn 3. That was Agura running wide. He's done a good job to recover, Steve, since then. In half a lap, he's fought back up from 6th to 2nd place. There he is, number 9 in this train. So we're coming through now. There'll be 3 to go. Masaki with the advantage. They've got to work together here. They don't want him breaking away. It's not going to happen, of course, because the slipstream is so effective down that very long run to turn 3. But look, as that graphic confirms, Masaki has fought up here. Grid up 6 places to lead this race. Number 12 there was diving to the inside. That's Yamanaka. Now this is great stuff in the Asia Talent Cup. I love commentating on these races. I know we have difficult names to pronounce, Steve, as we both know only too well. And incidentally, good luck to the MotoGP commentary team if you're listening for next weekend, because you've got a few difficult names to contend with. Matt, Nick, Steve, Dylan. Here we go then, down into turn 3. This is getting very tight indeed, and this time it's Masaki who runs wide, and look, the leader's gone wide as well. This is going to keep changing. The thing is, Steve, we could see a potential 3 or 4 lead changes on the last lap, because turn 1 they can pass, turn 3 they can certainly pass, turn 12 they can certainly pass. So, to be honest, any one of these 6 could win this race, and look what's happened now. Salim is in the lead. Yeah,
races like this, Greg, they're always similar to what you see in the cycling race. You spend 200 Ks just getting towards that last sprint. This is you spend 13, 14 laps just getting towards the last 2 laps, and suddenly this is where it all comes down to. And that's what you see instance in the last couple of laps. It's guys just start to push a little bit harder, trying to get to that lead of the group. And if you look at Yamanaka, he's come through the field now again, and this is where we've seen guys just yo-yoing through the field. But Jerry Salam, he's been consistently up there 2nd, 3rd, 4th for the last few laps. So he needs to be able just to use his experience from last year and keep himself in that kind of position.
Somebody else who's really impressing, you have to say, is the number 5 rider, the Japanese newcomer, Yuki Kuni. He's there in 5th position. He's been with this leading group right since the start. He's only 13 years of age, and he's having an absolutely superb run. Just 1 second then, covering this first group. Kawasaki, who's running in 7th, is a further 8.5 seconds down the road, and a very lonely 7th, because well back then is Ardian Shah, who's 20-odd seconds behind the leaders. The first of the Onsu brothers, that's Khan, is in 9th position. Sofoglu now, Bahetin Sofoglu, that's fantastic. He's up there. The 12-year-old is in the top 10 from Tom Edwards. Liam Seconsical, oldest rider in the race at 20, is in 12th. Then the other Onsu brother, that's Denise. He is 13th. So all of Keenan Sofoglu's 3 protégés are in the points, and very much in the points at the moment. Khairuddin, that's the younger brother of Fahmi Khairuddin, Idaham Khairuddin. He's running in 14th place, having done 4 races last year. And Sapata, the number 10 rider, that's Dwiki Sapata from Indonesia. He is on target for his first Asia Talent Cup point at the moment. We have 2 laps to go here in Thailand.
Yeah, and it's a proper breakaway now, Greg. There's 4 guys at the front. The win's going to be split between these 4 guys. You've got Yamanaka, Salim, Agura and Chantra, and now they're coming up again on a little bit more lap traffic. So with only a lap and a half to go, this bit of traffic could actually be a big influence on the outcome.
Yes, number 20, that's Law Chun Kit, one of the other wild cards. There's 3 in the field. He's the Chinese rider, moves cleanly out of the way, but it's going to be very tight, whatever he does around the left-hander there of turn 6. But you have to say, brilliant stuff from the Chinese rider, moves well out of the way. He's lapping at the moment in 20th position. Oh, and they're almost touching in the background. That was number 2 coming through on the back marker. That was Masaki, almost touching the back marker, going well off the racing line there, Steve. You saw the dust being kicked up. It's almost like Doha here in Buriram. In fact, you've got so much dust off the racing line, and obviously on the runoff area, but even just off the racing line, so dusty, with a bit of construction dust around. Of course, they've been working on the track over the last few weeks, and the general dust in the air anyway. A real challenge if you venture offline here in Thailand. We are now coming through to start the last lap of the first Asia Talent Cup race of 2016. It's been an absolute thriller, and we have 6 riders contesting the victory.
Yeah, and you saw Yamanaka try and take a defensive line into the final corner, but it leaves himself open to be swooped on the outside. So into the final lap now. Will anyone try that line at the last corner on this lap.
Well, Jerry Salim was the fastest last time round. There is Jerry Salim, number 4. Just behind him is Masaki, side by side at the front. 12 is Yamanaka, 9 is Ai Agura, 18 almost touching Yamanaka is Somkiat Chantra. Chantra, of course, you could say the darling of the crowd because he's at home in Thailand. And look at number 2. That was Masaki diving up the inside. Brilliant move from Masaki.
Yeah, I thought for sure in the last lap that it was going to be the top 4 that was going to split the win, but suddenly their infighting has now left the lead group now.
Yeah, look what's happening. Chantra's dive to the left-hand side. He's trying to break the toe. That's the first time. Look at that. That's like coming down the back straight at Sepang when they all moved over to the left-hand side. Towards the end of last year, number 2's being shuffled back all the way down from 3rd to 5th. Goes Masaki. That did not work out at all well. Yamanaka's now up the inside. He's not through. So Chantra is 2nd. Yamanaka is 3rd. Ai Agura still with the advantage. The number 9 rider. There he is there at the front of the pack. Tips it right for turn 7. For the last time. He is from Japan. He's just 15 years of age, born in January 2001, and he is now leading this race here in March 2016. It looks as though the 6th place rider, Kuni, the Japanese newcomer, is just being very, very sensible actually in that 6th position. He's not doing anything silly. It would be a very, very valuable 10 championship points if he stays where it is, but that last corner's coming up.
Yeah, we've seen Chantra be really strong the whole weekend, and now he's just put himself into the position to try and attack for the win.
Agura in the middle line, then number 12 is Yamanaka. Chantra is number 18. Who's going to win this one? Down into the last corner. It's looking good for Agura. Number 2's been caught out. Agura with the advantage. Almost contact behind. Off the road goes Chantra. Almost touching over the line. What a remarkable finish to the opening Asia Talent Cup race of 2016. Jerry Salim not happy there, but the winner is this man, Ai Agura, number 9. Fantastic performance for the Japanese rider, just 15 years of age. And Ai Agura comes through at the start of his 2nd season for his 2nd victory. He won in China last year. It's his 4th podium. And somebody's gone down at turn 7 on the very last lap. Oh, it's Bahitin Sofoglu. What a shame. Keenan won't believe it. He's gone down at turn 7 on the very last lap of the race. There is Bahitin Sofoglu. You can see just 12 years of age. He's a short guy, of course, but you would be, wouldn't you? You're only 12 years of age, Bahitin. What a shame. What happened, Steve? Talk us through it. Or is this the battle for the day? No, this is what happened to Bahitin Sofoglu. There was a touch there. There was big contact there coming through turn 7 on the last lap with Warapod Niamsa Consicle. So it was the oldest rider in the race touching the youngest rider in the race, and this is the result.
Yeah, you'd have to say Sofoglu unlucky in that instant. You see, he just gets the other bike just pushes up against him, and it just leaves him with nowhere to go. And it's a sad way to end the race because he had been running in the top 10. It was an impressive start to the year.
There's Keenan Sofoglu just watching that back a moment ago. Oh, what a shame. At least he manages a smile. Of course, 2 of your protégés, Keenan, have finished very much in the points. The Onsu brothers, Can finishes in 9th position. And Denise finishes in 12th position. But what a shame for Bahitin Sofoglu. You've got to say massive shame as well for Andy Izdahar, who was caught out earlier on. And to nobody's great surprise, I would suggest, number 18 is under investigation. That's Somkiat Chantra. So that is for the incident that took place, perhaps I would say, at the last corner. When I first said that, I said to nobody's great surprise because I was thinking the investigation might have been Niamsa Consicle. It's not. It's Chantra.
You have to remember as well, Greg, yesterday we saw a lot of penalties and warnings given for exceeding the track limits as well. And that's what we saw there with Chantra. He pulls out into the last corner and he runs all the way out onto the exit. He's over the white line, so he's just exceeding the track limits. So highly unlikely that he'll keep his place.
And of course, that will be exactly then why Jerry Salim was waving quite angrily his index finger at Somkiat Chantra as they crossed the line to finish the race. Chantra won here last year. Here he is. So we finished 1/10 of a second behind Agura, who won in the end. There's no question about the fact that Agura is a worthy winner, as some of the riders just run out wide there onto the runoff. Bit of pick up on the tyres, make sure the weight of the bikes is okay. Minimum weight 84 kilos with these Moto3 machines, and making a very wide line then down into the pit lane entrance at the end of the lap. But this is the corner where just a few moments ago this man, Somkiat Chantra, the Thai rider, looking to make a massive impression for the 2nd year in a row in front of his home crowd, got involved in that incident and he's now under investigation. We're going to have to wait for a moment then to see whether he actually does finish 2nd or not in this race. It was a great last lap, you have to say, for him, Steve, because he set the fastest 3rd sector of the whole race on the last lap as he was winding himself up to come through and attack for the win. Good to see the Thai flag flying again. You can see it on the fairing, you can see it on the crash helmet. A few of the crash helmets, as you can see this year, have got personalised colour schemes now. One of the real difficulties with the Asia Talent Cup when it first started, a little bit like the Red Bull rookies in its first year, was that all of the leathers, all of the bikes, all of the crash helmets were all exactly the same colours, and the only means of identification were the numbers. I don't know whether the AP Thailand technician there is just actually explaining the fact to Chantra that he's under investigation. At the moment, though, everybody happy. We'll let you know as soon as we hear anything from Race Direction. I can tell you our TV team does have a direct link with Race Direction, so as soon as they are informed, they will pass the message on to us, and we will pass the message on to you back home. But what a great performance from Ai Ogura. Just 15 years of age from Japan. He came good, really, last year when he won that first race at Zhuhai in the middle of the season. And we are now just hearing news coming through that Somkhyat Chantra does not finish second. He has been penalised by Race Direction. He's dropped down into 4th position, as is now confirmed on our timing screen here in the commentary box. So revised finishing positions for this opening race of the Asia Talent Cup season. Ai Ogura the winner. Jerry Salim finishes second, and Ryusu Yamanaka, another Japanese rider, is in 3rd. And Somkhyat Chantra being informed, here he is down in Park Ferme. You're not second, Somkhyat, you're 4th. Here we go then, Steve. Let's have a look at what happened. There's Chantra clearly off the road on the right-hand side. He's on the power. I suppose you could say, what else could he have done? Finishes just in front of Salim, who immediately knows what's happened. Here we go again. Look out for number 18 on the right, and then watch Salim waving at Chantra. Here you go, in the middle of your picture. Well, he was ahead of him by just barely a tenth of a second, but he was off the road, wasn't he? Yeah,
Chantra will say that Jerry Salim pushed him a little bit wide and he had to take avoiding action, but looking at the footage there, it's difficult to be able to really say that he wasn't at fault, that it wasn't his own mistake to push himself out wide. So just unfortunate for him, drops down to 4th, but it could have been worse for an instant like that.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, he couldn't just stop, could he, and let them all go. He's not just going to wave them all through. So unfortunate stuff there for Chantra, but I must say a very, very mature reaction indeed from the 17-year-old from Thailand. So, great stuff. What a race that was. Ai Ogura wins for Japan. Jerry Salim finishes 2nd for Indonesia. And then Ryusu Yamanaka finishes in 3rd position for Japan. As we know, it's most unpopular, I would say, for the Thai fans. 4th place for Somkhyat Chantra. Here's Yamanaka. Brilliant performance from him. The number 12 rider finishes 3rd from Chantra. Masaki banks good points with 5th place. Kuni, the Japanese newcomer, I must say that was a really, really strong ride. He was up with the leading group on the pace all the way through and finishes 6th. Kawasaki, another Japanese newcomer. We're going to have to get used to that, aren't we? Kawasaki on a Honda. He finishes 7th. Then it's Ardian Shah, who is 8th. Kan Onsu 9th, Tom Edwards, really strong top 10, Steve. We were talking about him through the race. Niam Sekonsikal finishes 11th. Certainly no action's been taken there by the looks of things after the last lap incident with Sofoglu. The other Onsu brother, Dennis, finishes 12th from Kairidin. Good points. Sugawara and Zapata is 15th. So, a few replays of the last lap of the race. Izdihar had gone down just a few minutes earlier, so it became a 6-rider scrap. Off the road goes Chantra. Watch the bike alongside him, Salim, already gesticulating as they cross the line. Here we go again. In fairness, as I say, he's not just going to back off, is he? But you've got to say Jerry Salim had a point because he was overtaken there effectively off the road. Brilliant stuff, though, for Ai Ogura. That's his 2nd win in the Asia Talent Cup, his 4th podium finish. This is the start of his 2nd season now. And here we go for the first time this weekend. It's a slightly different Park Ferme procedure here in Thailand, because as soon as they've finished in the Park Ferme area, they are now escorted, as you can clearly see, on the golf buggy across to the podium, which is on the other side of the track. So, great stuff then for the first Asia Talent Cup race of 2016. Ai Ogura wins for the first time this year and the 2nd time in his relatively short racing career. Jerry Salim 2nd, Yamanaka on the podium, Chantra demoted to 4th from 2nd on that last lap. Masaki and Kuni were up with the leaders for the whole race. Kawasaki, brilliant 7th. Ardian Shah, brilliant 8th. And then it's Kan Onsu, Keenan Sofoglu's protege, a brilliant top 10 result. And the same goes for Tom Edwards from Australia. Niam Sekonsikal, it could have all gone wrong on that last lap, but he finishes 11th from Dennis Onsu. Idaham Kairidin, that's the 3rd youngest brother of Fahmi. He finishes 13th. Then it's Sugawara from Japan and Zapata from Indonesia completing the points. And great stuff for everybody else as well. There were a few little incidents. A few of the riders were lapped, but they're all gaining experience. Most of them there completing the 16-lap duration. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for Bahitin Sofoglu, who was wiped out of a points finish on the very last lap, just seconds from home. And Andy Izdihar, that, Steve, arguably the biggest story, and he will be looking to go out tomorrow in the second race and prove a point, because he started on pole position. He's been very strong. He was leading for most of the race, and down at that last corner just a few minutes and a few laps before the end. So great disappointment, to say the very least, for Andy Izdihar.
Yeah, you definitely saw Izdihar was very impressive, but makes that mistake, runs on to the new asphalt, just carrying a little bit too much lean, and it just causes the front to fold. So it's just unfortunate for him, but it does leave him now where he's 25 points off Agura. And when we look at how strong Agura was today, it's going to be a challenge to really improve on that for the next couple of rounds.
Yeah, to be honest, he's going to need Agura to have a problem of his own, isn't he, somewhere along the line. And don't forget, it's a relatively long calendar now for the Asia Talent Cup. There's another race coming up here tomorrow, 2 races on the weekend, just as is the case for World Superbike, which is also racing here this weekend. 1 p.m. start tomorrow for the Asia Talent Cup race, so that's 1 hour later than today. And just to give you an idea, wherever you are in the world with the various time zones, it's now coming up to 1 o'clock here in Thailand. It's 20 to 1 local time, so just over 24 hours from now, the second race will be underway tomorrow. So Japanese riders on the podium then. Ai Agura wins it. Yamanaka number 12 in third. It's a major weekend, of course, for these riders, because all of the World Superbike and World Supersport teams are here. The riders watching on, possible rider coaching. The likes of Jonathan Ray here. Certainly know he's keen in taking riders underneath the Jonathan Ray umbrella and coaching them. Of course, team bosses as well. And then there'll be another opportunity next weekend when they get to the Qatar Grand Prix. Third and fourth races of the Asia Talent Cup series, and that's what we were saying at the start of this broadcast. There are a maximum 100 points up for grabs over the opening 4 races of the season. 25 potentially already lost for Andy Izdihar. It just proves how quickly things can get away from you. Let's not forget, the very first title was decided by only 18 points in 2014. It was a 39-point cushion for Sasaki last year. Up onto the podium they go then. Yusu Yamanaka, 14-year-old from Japan. Jerry Salim, 18-year-old from Indonesia. And your winner for the second time in the Asia Talent Cup, but the first time here in Thailand, Ai Agura. Just 14 years of age, 15 years of age from Japan. It's funny sometimes, Steve, we see the riders on the podium in the Asia Talent Cup, and depending on the ages of the riders, one rider could be standing in the top spot and might actually be dwarfed by the rider who's second or third.
Yeah, but you see that in MotoGP as well. At Misano last year, when Scott Redden was on the podium, he was the same height as everyone else.
Well, Scott would be absolutely delighted to hear that if he's listening in. Well done, Ai Agura, first Shell Advance Asia Talent Cup race winner of 2016 here in Thailand. And of course, just as they would do in the MotoGP World Championship, he now gets to enjoy his national anthem. Congratulations then to Ai Agura, the first Asia Talent Cup race winner of 2016. Jerry Salim second, Yamanaka finishes on the podium. 25 points for Agura, 24 Salim, 16 for Yamanaka. These guys honing their skills all the time. They're getting used to running with very, very competitive fellow riders. They're getting used to running in a pack. All completely new for these riders. Many of them have only done very, very junior races back home in their native countries, but now they really are beginning to develop their reputations on the world scene. So the championship standings mirroring the results of that first race. Ai Agura leads the Asia Talent Cup for the first time. Salim second from Yamanaka. Chantra will be disappointed. He was right up there on the front row of the grid and has been one of the fastest riders this year so far, both in testing and here in Thailand. Nevertheless, 13 points. Masaki completes the top 5. And congratulations to all of the other newcomers further down the order. Remember, 16 rookies in this particular race out of the 23 who started, many of them scoring points. So let's relive this opening Asia Talent Cup race of 2016. It didn't start very well at all for Isam Iqmal, who was stuck on the grid. He did manage to rejoin the action and got to the end of the race one lap down. But it was a perfect start for the likes of the pole sitter Andy Izdihar and also for number 12, Yamanaka, who was attacking as they came down to the hairpin. We talked about pitfalls through the race, a new skill for all of these riders. There was a massive moment about halfway through for Ai Agura, who, don't forget, went on to win this race, having sunk at that point all the way down to 7th position. But it wasn't long until he was back up at the front of the race, battling away with the likes of Masaki. And at this point, Izdihar was still very much involved in the mix and very much controlling his pace, it has to be said, having started on pole position. Then there was this moment down into turn 12, just a few laps from the end of the race, and it was all going to go wrong for Izdihar. Caught out on that new strip of asphalt down into turn 12, his own crash, low side, out of the race he went. So the magnificent 7 became the superb 6. It was Agura, Salim, Yamanaka, Chantra, Masaki and the Japanese rookie Kuni all battling for the victory. And we knew there were going to be changes, but where were they going to happen? Would it be turn 3? Would it be turn 1? Would it be turn 12? It was turn 12. Agura did it perfectly, but off the road when Somkiat Chantra was demoted to 4th position, as Jerry Salim had hoped. But it is this man, Ai Agura, first Asia Talent Cup winner of 2016.